gracious enough to house my sis after eviction, and she called the cops on me for stealing my own car 'cause she wants it too. Guess where she will end up now? I, 20 female, have been living on my own for about 2 years. When I first moved out, my dad gave me his old car to help me get around. It wasn't in great shape, but he said as long as I covered the insurance and repairs, it was mine. Over the past 2 years, I've put a lot of money into keeping it running, so it feels very much like my car at this point. Last week, my older sister, Anna, 21 female, asked if she could move in with me temporarily because she broke up with her boyfriend and has nowhere to go. I was hesitant because we've never been super close, but I agreed. Family's family, right? 2 days later, I got a call from the police saying my car had been reported as stolen. I was in total shock. After a long stressful back and forth, I found out it was Anna who reported me. Apparently, she had called my dad first to guilt him into taking the car back so she could have it. When that didn't work, she went straight to the cops, claiming I had stolen it. Luckily, my dad backed me up and cleared everything up with the police, but it was embarrassing and scary to even be in that situation. When I confronted Anna, she admitted it, but then she didn't think it would go that far and just wanted to teach me a lesson about sharing. Are you kidding me? I told her there's no way she's moving in after pulling something like that. But now she's blowing up my phone, calling me selfish and immature, and even got some family members involved. They're saying I need to be the bigger person because she's going through a tough time. I feel like letting her move in would be insane after this, but am I being too harsh? Now for the comments. Anna is not welcome in my life moving forward. Anyone who has an opinion on that matter can let her move in with you. She tried to ruin my life by having me arrested. I will not now, nor will I ever forgive her for that. And again, anyone who has a problem with that is free to buzz right off, not the whole. EP live that, quote, she is dangerous to you. Maybe you lack self-preservation and survival skills. I don't know. But this isn't even debatable. You should be pushing for her prosecution. Also, you need to secure your home. She will retaliate. Suggest to the police that they might want to pursue a wasting police time charge against her. It's up to them, but this was a clear case of that. She didn't think it would go that far. She hoped it would go further, that you would be arrested and jailed, and she could take both the house and car scot-free. Not the a-hole. What is she going to do next to teach you a lesson under your own roof? She can move back in with your parents or other family members who seem oh so concerned. Yes, she's very entitled. You are not the a-hole. She showed her true intentions and interests, which are only for herself when she pulled a car stunt. The car thing is between you and your dad. It's none of her business. Never put yourself in a situation where she can ruin your day again. The best way to do that is to keep her away from you as much as possible. I mean, you don't have to ignore her, but letting her move in? No. She already screwed that up royally. It's entirely her fault that she's not allowed to move back in with you, not yours. Well, at least I know better now. It's always awful when you love someone and they betray you like this. But at the same time, it can be freeing. One less toxic person in your life. I don't know your sister, but if she pulled this, I bet she was a real piece of work her whole life. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my ex and former best friend to take my kids out of state for a week to heal and recover after she was left unable to have children? I have 2 children under 12 with my ex. We divorced 5 years ago after I found out he and my former best friend were having an affair. They both tried to apologize and ask for it not to ruin everything, but their actions had already ruined everything. I hate the two of them. I no longer care about how they're doing, but for my kids' sake, I remain civil. I have never badmouthed them to my kids. I have never told my kids what happened. I would never want my kids to be harmed more by their father's actions than they already were. The divorce was tough on them, and they had a hard time coming to terms with the changes. They still need therapy for some adjustment issues that have remained. My former best friend hasn't helped by trying to continue on as best friend despite her actions. It also didn't help the kids went from their parents living together to their dad living with mom's former friend. But, again, my primary focus has been my children. I love my kids more than I hate those two repulsive individuals. I love my kids more than myself, which is why I work so hard to be civil in front of my kids because the last thing I wanted was to make nice with them. But my kids love their dad, and that has never changed. My ex and this woman are now married, and they tried to have children together. In December, she had her 10th miscarriage and had to be rushed to the hospital and into surgery, which left her unable to get pregnant again. I got a call from my ex telling me all this and asking me to bring the children to the hospital to stay until she was ready to leave. It was my parenting time, so I told him I would not bring them to sit and wait. He was very unsettled and told me to bring the kids by and that he'd get them to ask me to let them stay. I told him that wasn't happening. He made no more contact after that. And he didn't take the kids for his parenting time either or contact me about it. His mom reached out and told me he refused to leave the hospital. He didn't see them until his parenting time came around again and she was released. There was a new tension in the air at that point. He was furious with me for keeping the kids from sitting vigil in the hospital with him. Now we have another dilemma that's become an issue. My ex booked a healing getaway for them, and they want the kids to go along. It happens during my week, and it's a school week. He also wants to take his weeks as normal before and after that, so he would have them for 3 consecutive weeks. From what he stated, he would potentially keep them out of school for that long so the kids could be there to help her recover and grieve knowing she has them, was how he explained it to me. I said no and explained that I was not letting him take them out of school for a week just for her. I told him the kids are not their emotional support to get them through this and that therapy is significantly better. I told him I didn't approve of them missing extended school time, period. But I wasn't giving up my week for it. He tried to state the week he missed should be made up. But our court-ordered parenting plan states that if a parent voluntarily doesn't take their week without an agreed-upon make-up period, then the other doesn't need to give up a week in return. I pointed this out to him, and he asked me how I could be so by the book about this. He said human decency would dictate that I should be willing to put aside our differences at a time like this and that school isn't more important than family. He asked me how I would feel if she ended her life because of this, and my refusal was part of the reason why. I told him I wouldn't feel anything. I told him they lost all their rights for me to feel something for them when they betrayed me, and I would not be manipulated into agreeing. He's pushing very hard for this and trying to guilt me into agreeing. I know I might be overly harsh in my response to this, so I wanted to ask if people believe I'm wrong or not. Not the whole. Your kids are not your cheating ex-wife's emotional support animals. You can go get a dog. Dogs love you even if you are a complete a-hole. You don't pull kids out of school just to make yourself feel better. That is completely inappropriate. I agree, and he sounds like he would keep them out for 3 weeks, if not a little less. It's a lot of school to miss and not a very good reason, in my opinion. I would actually be more concerned about the emotional damage this so-called healing getaway would inflict. You don't expect kids to provide adults emotional support like that. And you're completely right, 3 weeks out of school is a lot. It may cause them to fall behind a grade and could be considered truancy because the school would have to agree that the vacation would be an acceptable excuse for missing school. So many things are wrong with your selfish idea. You don't. They're so very wrong for it, and they do not see it. Plus, there's a lack of care about the impact on the kids emotionally and educationally. Not trying to scare you at all, but your ex trying to help her heal by having the kids for 3 weeks is ridiculous. He wanted the children during week to sit vigil with him in a hospital, which could have been quite traumatizing to them. For some reason, that didn't occur to him at all. His team only focused on her needs, but 3 weeks is plenty of time for the two of them to disappear with your children. The pair of them don't seem to have any guilt whatsoever when it comes to taking things from you. This is a woman who, after stealing your husband, expected you to still be beasties. Why wouldn't she want to take your children now that you can't have her own? Because in her mind, you can have more. I thought that also, OP should consider putting a tile or air tag in the kids' backpacks. Backpack, shoes, hair ties, more than one is my idea. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife to stop treating her sister so badly after her sister confessed to having feelings for me? My wife and I have been married for 10 years and together for 12. We have 2 children. My sister-in-law, Jenna, is a single mom as her husband sadly passed away 7 years ago. When Jenna's husband passed away, my wife and I provided support for Jenna and her daughter because it was a really traumatic time for them. Over the years, my wife and I spent a lot of time at Jenna's house, and she would often come over to ours. I also developed a really strong bond with my niece. My wife, my children, and I had a close connection with Jenna and her daughter, and we were a tight-knit group. That was until a few months ago when Jenna confessed something to both me and my wife. We were all drunk and having a good time, and Jenna kind of just blurted out that she had developed feelings for me. I was shocked, and Jenna burst into tears, saying things like how grateful she was that I was a father figure to her daughter. I don't remember too much from that night, except that my wife kicked Jenna out of our house after her confession. My wife and I talked about it the next day, and my wife was obviously very upset. She said she had suspected this for years based on the way Jenna was acting around me, and she couldn't believe Jenna had betrayed her like that. My wife decided we should cut off all contact with Jenna, and I agreed. My wife told me to block Jenna, which I did. However, I feel like this arrangement has been a bit harsh, especially towards my niece. My niece has been texting me a lot, and I've shown my wife the texts, telling her it was unfair that we were punishing my niece too. My wife said it was a consequence of Jenna's actions. Last night, when my niece sent a really long and sad text about how she and her mom were feeling, I feel terrible and decided to bring it up with my wife. I told her we should stop treating Jenna and her daughter so badly, especially after they both went through such a traumatic time. I acknowledge that what Jenna did was wrong, But I asked my wife to have some sympathy. I asked her to imagine if she were in Jenna's shoes and one night tragically lost me. I said that would scar her for a lifetime. My wife got really upset after I said that and broke down in tears. She didn't say anything except that she loved me, and she didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. I feel guilty about what I said. I didn't intend to make my wife feel like this. Was that a hole? Now for the top comments. Your wife is correct about creating some distance. Your sister-in-law and niece are clearly slotting you into a partner/dad role, and some boundaries need to be re-established. The fact that your sister-in-law was bold enough to admit those feelings in front of your wife is already alarming. Also, the wife said she suspected this for years and still kept quiet and supported Janet through her grief. The torment of thinking for years that your sister has feelings for your husband? That's the ultimate betrayal, and she must have felt terrible just thinking it. Now Jenna has confirmed the wife was right all along, and OP has the audacity to guilt her for creating distance? That's messed up. OP? Major a hole. The audacity to say it right in front of your wife. Her sister is insane to me, drunk or not. WTF. Not to mention how ridiculously hypocritical is it for him to tell his wife to put herself in her sister's shoes after getting stabbed in the back while he can't be bothered to put himself in his wife's shoes. Not only is he a hypocrite, but it's been 7 years. How long does sister needs to latch on to Opie? At some point, she needs to live her own lives. Stand by your wife and respect her boundaries. Yes, it's very unfair to your niece, but you are not the one who created this situation. Again, stand by your wife. I think Denise wants OP as a stepfather. Niece isn't innocent in this, and OP should have blocked sister-in-law and niece, but he is going to destroy his marriage over it. Heck, I bet the sister-in-law is helping her daughter with those texts. OP, you're the a-hole. No contact to both sister-in-law and niece needs to happen. Your wife and children come before anyone, especially a potential homewrecker. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend family dinners because my parents keep treating me like the problem child? So I, 21 female, feel like I'm losing my mind here. I need to know if I'm totally out of line. My family has always had this unspoken golden child versus problem child dynamic. My older sibling, 26, is the golden child. Straight A student, great job, married, basically the poster child for success. Then there's me, the one who didn't follow the perfect plan. I'm in college and working part-time while figuring out what I want to do with my life. But apparently, that's not good enough for my parents. Every family dinner turns into them grilling me about when I'm going to get my life together or why can't I be more like my sibling. Meanwhile, they're praising my sibling for, like, breathing. The final straw was last week. We were at dinner and my mom straight up said, "It's just so disappointing that you're not living up to your potential." I tried to laugh it off, but it hurt. Then my dad chimed in with, "Well, maybe if you spent less time on your phone and more time thinking about your future, you'd get somewhere." I snapped. I told them I'm doing the best I can, and that is hard enough without feeling like a failure every time I see them. My mom rolled her eyes and said, "We're only hard on you because we care," which feels like the biggest cop-out ever. So I told them I'm done coming to family dinners if they're just going to use me as their punching bag. Now they're acting like I'm the one being dramatic and immature. My sibling even texted me saying I'm making things awkward and should just let it go because they're just trying to help. But I don't think constantly comparing me to my sibling and putting me down is helpful. I just wanted to enjoy dinner without feeling like a disappointment. 6 months. Do not talk to them for 6 months. If you back up your words with action, they will learn to shut up. They know they are right. Let them stew. The first words you speak after that should be, "If you ever do it again, 1 year." Try a dinner. If they do it again, just go for the year. Heck, this will help your mental health a ton. No sibling either. If he doesn't tell them to shut up, he needs a timeout as well. Not the a-hole. Also, Hopi, you're doing freaking great holding life together the best way you can. This internet stranger is proud of you. Bummer your family don't see it. That's on them. No contact works. I did it with my dad. I didn't speak to him for 4 months. And once I finally did, he actually listened when I said enough.